Hello, hello, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to discuss 5 trends that you might want to ditch in 2024 to have a better financial year in 2025. We are getting towards the end of the year. We are starting to talk about resolutions, maybe looking back at 2024 and going, oops, I didn't do that. Oops, I was supposed to do that. I didn't do that. And we feel like it's too late. But it's not, because we can change some of our habits, and some of those habits that we change are getting rid of some habits, right? And maybe one of these 5, or maybe all of these 5, can help you be on track for a good 2025 when it comes to your finances. And if you are new here, welcome. My name is Lisa. I've been a financial advisor for over 14 years. I help people get to financial freedom as quickly as possible, and maybe these will help you get there. So let's take a look. All right. So, number 1 is mindless subscriptions. Not knowing what is being charged on your credit card, having 3 Hulu accounts that you didn't know about, that kind of stuff is an ongoing thing. I hear that all the time from people. I had 3 subscriptions and I didn't even realize it, to Netflix or whatever. And we kind of laugh it off and go, oh, that's so silly. But realistically, you should know what subscriptions you have. You should know what you're paying for. And you should know if you're overpaying for something. We get put a lot in these monthly subscription worlds of, we take care of the new clients or the new customers coming on board, and we kind of push, they're doing the cable thing, right? That's why we all left cable. They're pushing all their old customers to worse plans and giving new customers all these different perks and stuff. And if you don't know what you're paying, and you don't know if you're getting overcharged, if you're losing certain abilities, all that stuff, you're going to be paying for things that you didn't even realize you were paying for. And that's not really financial freedom, is it? Financial freedom means I get to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and nobody tells me any different, and money's not going to hold me back. Well, yeah, but you don't get there, and you don't continue to have financial freedom if you're not being consciously aware of your spending. And a really good way to get a little bit more aware of your spending is to look at these mindless subscriptions that we do, whether it's monthly, quarterly, annually, whatever it is. Know what you're paying for. And it might just be as simple as put together a spreadsheet, put together an Excel spreadsheet. It's easy. Or just write it on a piece of paper if you're old school. That's okay too. And to actually look at things and say, am I getting my money's worth from this? And you might end up cutting a couple, and that's okay. It's okay. All right. Credit card reliance. Now, there's always this kind of juxtaposition when it comes to credit cards, right? We have people like in the Dave Ramsey world who says you cannot put stuff on credit cards, especially if you have any debt and you pay out of an envelope, and he has a whole system. I don't know if he's the one that came up with that. I know he's made that kind of famous, but there's this whole idea of don't rely on your credit cards. And I think to an extent, this is true. I am a credit card user. I use credit cards. We get points on credit cards. We get cash back. Actually, we get cash back, so we don't do the points part of it because we won't use those. But we get cash back. We do all that stuff. I am a proponent of credit cards. I use credit cards. However, I'm a proponent of credit cards when you pay them off. If you are consistently paying the minimum payment or not consistently able to pay off your credit cards, that is a problem. That is how debt starts. And talk about, mindlessness. If you become unaware of what is happening with that, you can have tons of debt and not even really realize it, right? You've got cards, you're not paying attention to them. It is all about, you're going to see a lot of these trends are about being more mindful rather than mindless. And when it comes to money, people seem to want to just turn it off. I don't want to deal with it. But becoming more mindful in your spending, in your finances in general, will help tremendously get you to financial freedom. Above and beyond, we all know kind of what to do, save more, spend less. Let's say you didn't do any of that and you just became more mindful of your spending. You're going to curb some of this stuff on your own without even having to really do anything else, without having to up your savings. You're going to probably up your savings because you're going to say, I don't want to pay for that anymore. Why am I paying for that? And click, and you save $10 here, $20 here, $30 here, and those add up. So it just shows that if you become more mindful of your overall finances, you will be in a better place. So credit card reliance is important because when you're charging for something, think to yourself, can I pay this off at the end of the month? I'm not talking about groceries and things. I'm talking about, that extra TV or the bike that you wanted to get or whatever, some extra spending. Think, can I pay this off in full? Could I come with cash and just hand this to this person? If not, you might want to make that a bucket list item or a motivational item that you save towards, and then when you actually have the cash to be able to pay that off, then you could use your credit card to get points or whatever else you want, or you could just pay it off in cash, whichever way. But knowing if you could or couldn't and having that discussion with yourself is really important. So don't be reliant on your credit card to get you through month to month. Make sure that you are being mindful and saving enough so that you can pay off credit cards, because the interest rates on credit cards are just astronomical. Why are you paying so much to a company? People want to talk about how grocery stores and groceries are so expensive. The ones that are making a lot of money right now are Visa, MasterCard, and all those big corporations. They are making a ton of money off of you guys, and I do not hear anybody getting mad at them. You should. The interest rates that they are charging you are astronomical. So you might not like what you're paying for eggs, but you really won't like, if you did the math, how much you are paying on interest on credit card balances that you're not paying off. All right, trend number 3, ignoring inflation. This is really important. Actually, I do short videos. You might or might have not seen them. You want to see them, this is what I do, is I talk about certain trends, both business-wise and just things I find interesting. I figure if I find it interesting, maybe other people will find it interesting. So we talk a little bit about some retirement stuff, but it's mainly about business and different things that are happening in the business market and what I find fascinating. Well, the one I'm going to be doing right after this is actually about our increase in salary according to the U.S. Census Bureau, that it's gone up from, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, from this amount to this amount. And I did the math, and the amount that it went up from 2022 to 2023 was 1.04%. Now, I remember that inflation was 7, 8, 9% in 2022. That means that our income went up, let's say it was 7%. It was higher than that, but let's say it was 7%, a seventh of that. That's really bad. So they're trying to act like, oh, well, salaries went up. Yeah, but it went up so low compared to the national inflation level. And I hate that we are going through this inflationary time, but I hope that this taught people how inflation affects things, and that it's not just about, increasing salaries or increasing blah, blah, blank, 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 whatever you want to put in there. This affects your overall life. And when you are getting an increase of 1% in your salary and your egg cost is going up 7%, your gas price is going up, 12%, your auto insurance has gone skyrocketing. I cannot tell you, I cannot seem to find what the purpose or reason is, but auto insurance has just gone skyrocketing the last couple of years. Your little 1% increase in your salary is not keeping up with that. So remembering that inflation is important to take a look at, and the costs of rising costs against how much you are increasing in your salary or how much you're able to gain in investments in your bank accounts. I have a whole video about high yield savings accounts. Those can be a good tool to keep up with some inflation depending on where they're at, of course. But you want to research different things, and a good tool to research if you're not sure where inflation is to research TIPS, which are Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. I never can get that right, so I had to read it. But you want to look at that. That tends to help you figure out where inflation is, because they are based off of some inflationary aspects of the economy. And make sure you diversify so that if your cash is making 0.5%, let's say, that maybe you have some in other investments that are making 10%. And if inflation's at 4, well, then we're at least, making it up someplace. So really taking a look at how inflation is affecting your money and how you get that rate of return to at least keep up with inflation, if not do better than inflation overall. Trend number 4 is keeping savings in one place. This is, I would say, the biggest problem I see is everybody relies on one account, one type of account to do their work for them. People don't want to do the work of having multiple different accounts when it comes to, I'm talking about investments mainly, but it also is true with bank accounts. Like I said, I have a video about high yield savings account, and some of the pushback I get, and it sounds silly, and as soon as they say it, they say that sounds so lazy, but they don't want to have more than one bank account because it's more things that I have to manage. Come on, guys, this is your future. You can have 2 bank accounts. You can have one at the regular bank, and you can have, if a high yield savings account works for you, if it's for what you're trying to accomplish, another one that you have to look at every once in a while. Come on. This thing that we just want to push off, what I think, and of course I'm in this industry, but what I think is the most important thing that you are doing, which is saving for your future, making sure you are able to be financially free. And we can't even bother having more than one account. That's just there's mental blocks. This is why I go through some, myth busting and all that stuff. The mental blocks we go through is just ridiculous. And I hear people say, well, simple's better. Simple does not mean just one bank account, or does not mean one investment account. Now, do I think you should have 15 different investment accounts? No, probably not. You do want to make sure that you're consolidating fees and everything else. But to say that your 401k is it, end of story, that's going to be your retirement, that is not the right way to do this. You want to think about diversification in the future when it comes to taxes, how it's handled tax-wise, in terms of investments, in terms of other things. 401ks are made to protect the employees, okay? Does that mean you can't get a good rate of return in your 401k? No, but they are going to have protective measures in there because your boss or whoever's in charge of the 401k is the fiduciary, and they're not going to put stuff in there that is just going to be can be abused, and that somebody can abuse you through the funds. They're just not going to do that because that's their liability, as they shouldn't put that in there. Plus, 401ks can be expensive. Some of them can be very cheap, but some of them can be very expensive. So if you want to have any kind of diversification strategy in terms of your rates of return, you're going to have 1 or 2 or 3 different accounts. Well, not one, right? Not one is what I'm saying. You're going to have 2 or 3 different accounts. Maybe you have one that's more conservative in terms of risk and rate of return, and one that's more aggressive, and one that's in the middle. Maybe you have one that's going to be tax free when you take it out, tax preferred, we sometimes say, when you take it out, versus one that you're deferring tax right now. There are lots of different levers to pull, and if you pull enough levers that work in your situation, you will be better off. I promise you. All right, and for the last, trend number 5, overlooking financial education. Okay, again, I said we put the blinders on. We don't want to have to deal with it. I can't have more than one bank account, which is silly. Things like that. We often will say this stuff to ourselves. Simple's better. Simple can be better, but that doesn't mean one account, right? That doesn't mean one solution to a problem. If you really want to get to the best solution for an issue, financial or otherwise, you usually have to think through multiple different scenarios to figure out what the best one is. And Honestly, I'll tell you a little thing that I do. Like if I have a challenging email or a challenging issue come up, I put it on pause for a little bit so I can think through all the different solutions, all the different ways I can come back to that person and try to be helpful rather than combative. I go through multiple different scenarios, and usually I come up with the best one. Was that ever my first one? No, it's never the first thing. My first thing is to yell at them and go, don't you dare accuse me of blah, blah, blah. I'm not even talking about financial stuff now. I'm just talking about in life, right? It happens. But it's better to take a pause and go through multiple scenarios. Why wouldn't it be better to do that for your financial life too? Which I would argue is one of the most important aspects of having a healthy, happy life, is making sure that you are not stressed out by your finances. So overlooking financial education is a huge issue. I have this happen to me all the time. I work with a lot of women. Some, are widowed, some are divorced. Some are married too, of course. But I have a lot of them say, well, you've got me. You're my girl. I know you'll take care of me. While that makes my heart warm and fuzzy, that bothers me a bit because I want people to be actively engaged with their finances. Okay. And so I want people, they don't need to understand all of what I'm doing, but I want them to be actively engaged. I want them to be thinking about things. I want them to be asking questions. And oftentimes you don't know what questions to ask because you haven't done any kind of education on this. And does that mean you're supposed to be an expert? No. But I do want people to send articles or questions, or maybe they were talking to a coworker and they said something, they oh, should I have done that too? I think that that's good. I think that that's a healthy thing because I'm not omnipotent. Like there might be a solution that we talked about a couple years ago or that didn't fit a couple years ago that fit now. And maybe your coworker says something and I go, that's actually a really good solution. We should talk about that more. Experts don't mean we're perfect. And so essentially when you're overlooking financial education, you really put yourself in a hole. And so what I suggest people do is read one financial article a week. One, I don't care if it's Yahoo Finance, it can be The Economist, it can be New York Times, it can be Wall Street Journal, it can be, I don't really care where you get it from. You can just Google Social Security every week. It doesn't matter to me. But what I do think is important is putting yourself in a place where you are an open mind and trying to learn something. Now, you might read that entire article and not understand one sentence of it, okay? And you go, I don't understand that at all. And that makes us feel stupid. And then when we feel stupid, we just stop doing something because we don't like feeling that way. And I get that. I used to do that too. But I promise you, if you keep reading articles and keep trying to educate yourself just a little bit each week, it will be amazing how quickly this stuff will start to make sense. And you'll go back to that first article and it will totally make sense. So, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe you need to call your financial person up and say, hey, I was reading this article. Can you explain this to me? That's okay. We're happy to do stuff like that. So be an active participant in your financial plan. And when that happens, you need to be educated and you need to self-educate some too. You can't just rely on your financial advisor for all the solutions and for all the education. You do need to be, you're your own, you're the hero in your story. Be the hero. Take charge, be Superman. That probably doesn't make any, I don't know Superman that well. That probably doesn't make any sense. But be your own cheerleader because nobody's going to cheer harder for you than you. So with that, I hope this helped you get a better mindset of some things you could be ditching in 2025. And what money habits do you want to ditch, this year that maybe I didn't mention? Feel free to message me and let me know, and I'm happy to add them to the list. Okay, so subscribe more to good financial trends that are putting you in the best place in 2025, and I think you will be happier. Thank you so much for staying to the end, and we will see you at the next one. Bye-bye.